Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Fakhruddin bin Samudi, and my group members are Amin Birzal bin Zaiful Anwar and Muhammad Hairidani bin Arba'i. So for the case study, Hairidani House has been chosen to be the case study location to investigate the heat gain and loss for this assignment. It was a flat typical house that on the top level, which is the 4th floor, located at Block 17, Jalan Pinang 3, Taman Daya, Johor Bahru. The flat house for the case study is east-west orientation, so with the front and back of the house is facing east. Malaysia is exposed to the El Nino effects, which reduce rainfall in the dry seasons. This video will present about the result of heat gain and loss and how to improve the heat loss. And they have several things that affect the heat gain and loss for this house, which are wall, roof, window, shading, and building orientation. Wall. Because of the low R value, RCC may easily transfer the gain into living area of the case study house. However, this case study house lack an overhang to shade it from direct sunshine. As a result, the rate of heat gain in the house is around 25% through this wall and also the ceiling, particularly during the day. And in this case study house also, the wall will absorb afternoon sun heat during second half of the day and release the heat in the evening and heating up the house. So in the case study, poor wall insulation accounts for 35% to 45% of heat loss. So heat energy is transported from jewels by the conduction by the walls, and which is in turn blowing insulating material into the gap between the hollow brick and the interior wall, so which is the RCC. And then because insulating materials are poor conductors, so they limit its loss through conduction. And next is roof. The absorbed solar radiation raises the temperature of the roof surface, while hot weather refers to the heating of air temperature in built-up regions, which contributes to extra building heating by surrounding building with warm air. So however, around 25% of the heat production by its boiler will escape by the roof of the case study house. So the heat absorption of this house roof materials is affected by two variables, which is the type of finish and the color. In terms of heat loss for the roofing house, the uninsulted roof and attics account for up to 20% of heat loss in this house. Then the rate of changes is also affected by wind upon the house while it's blow across a roof's surface. The rate of the heat transfer through the element increases during the night time. As the sun goes down, the roof begins to cool until it makes the same temperature as the air around it.
First of all, my name is Muhammad Hari. I will present the opening or window application for this house. During the day, about 48% of the heat gain input through the windows as assumptions for this case study house. The hardwood and glass louvered blades to complete block out the sun because of it is transparent type. Sometimes it will make easier way and not blocking from the sunlight during the daytime. Next, the wooden door that conduction is transfer of heat gain within the material itself. It is also very poor conductor, so it is transmit heat gain very slowly. For the heat loss from the house because of the regard in the temperature inside and outside, which is occur to increasing the heat loss by conduction through the windows. The warm air leaving the case study house carries heat and it is replaced by the colder air on night time. The airflows also occur through the windows It is also always open during the daytime to make sure the wind would overcome while reduce the heat. Next, the shading device using the tone of bright color. Therefore, the amount of energy reflected increases while it absorbed decreases. In this case study house, using the blue color in interior and metal awning as a exterior shading which is have an aluminized treatment added to the side that face the glazing to increase the reflection. Then the terms of heat gain may not reflected back through the windows that also will be absorbed or transmit through the shading device and less capacity. The heat loss then amount of energy will reflected grow as well, while the amount of energy absorbed lesser because of the color that chosen in this case study house. Otherwise, metal awnings in the balcony area uh, will can, will slowly reduce the amount of heat and heat loss received by the house from direct sunlight, that resulting in the heat system working less to cool the case studies. Last but not least, the building orientation commonly used rooms such as the kitchen and living rooms are on the southern side. Additionally, the balcony area and other less often used areas located on the northern side of the house, where they will act as buffers against the winds. For this case study house, where the sun direction is the face the south-north, so that it will absorb the least heat from the sun during the day. Then maximum heat gain in this house is from the west-north direction in the second half of the day. Hence, it is considered the extended shading device in order to reduce the heat gain. Furthermore, the second master bedroom, toilet, balcony area, and the kitchen gaining more heat during the evening while releasing the heat gain.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. My name is Amir Zabil Zaif Anwar. Now, I would like to present about ground surface. For the ground surface, it is indicating the cement concrete. So, the basement floors and ground portion of the walls are in direct contact with the earth, which is normally warmer than the base. And so there is heat transfer between the base and the ground. Because of the direct contact between the walls and the floor, this is conduction heat transfer, and it is affected by the temperature between the basement and the ground. Indirectly, the occupants will feel more heat gain during the daytime because of related on the building and ground surface. Besides that, the addition of the tar parking lot and the heat gain more often than 2 years ago on this surrounding area. Other than that, the lawn in the playground for this house surrounding area will prevent much more heat gain and releasing the heat during the daytime. Then, because of type of this house is flat house, heat loss through the basement floor is much smaller since the heat flow path to the ground surface is much longer in this case study house. It is calculated in a similar manner from where floor is the overall heat transfer coefficient at the basement floor or the ground surface. This also indicates that the majority of heat loss from such flooring occurs through the perimeter to the outside air rather than through the floor into the earth or ground surface. Next, I will present about vegetation. For the vegetation on surrounding this house, there are more tree cutting activities to construct more parking lots, so that the number of trees is decreasing compared to 2 years ago. So that this residential area is hotter on daytime as there is no shade or blocking from the sun provided by trees. The presence of trees is actually in the urban environment results in cooler places. The parks make a substantial contribution to the decrease of air temperature. There are three distinct effects of vegetation: shade, evapotranspiration, and natural ventilation. But not in this case study house that refused to accept the presence of a tree and more completing or concern to the parking lots project. The occupants will also receive its consequences indirectly by experiencing more heat gain than before. Moreover, in certain time, the plants release heat through evaporation of water from cell surfaces, convection, and conduction. The conversion of liquid water to water vapor demands a significant amount of energy, and this energy loss what generates the cooling effect. Besides that, only the soil and lawn in this house surrounding area may support the condition of heat. Heat can be transported inside soil through conduction and convection, even without latent heat transfer. Thermal soil characteristic, volume, heat capacity, and heat conductivity all influences heat conduction. Now, I would like to present about problem related to thermal comfort. First of all, thermal comfort is defined as the range of climatic conditions as comfortable and acceptable inside building. The number of occupants that live in this house is accurate, so that will constantly produce less heat energy. The heat from the body is transferred to the environment by the radiation and convection process to keep the body at suitable and comfortable in a temperature. Then, during the daytime, the heat can present into this house from the sun because of the windows with transparent glass louver and the direction of the sun, so that the humidity and thermal discomfort to present the heat from the building and also occupants. Otherwise, the velocity of the air with which a person comes into contact drops, for example, make feel colder because the faster the air moves, the greater the extent of heat between the body and the air. The actual amount of water vapor in the air and the maximum amount of water vapor that the air can contain at the temperature, both represented as a percentage. Then, during the night, heat loss from the house increases due to temperature differences inside and outside the house, increasing the rate of heat loss by conduction and ventilation. Warm air leaves the home, carrying heat with it, and is replaced by cooler air. The airflow is also affected by the windows, doors, and building orientation. The wind on the case study house is also influences the rate of air changes. The wind also blows across the surface of the wall and roof, increasing heat transfer through the element. The greater relative humidity there is, the more difficult it is to lose heat through sweet evaporation. That's all from me. Thank you.